Hello again, guys. Welcome back to Trickway with Grey Gamer myself. Hello. Hello, Grey.
Howdy.
Hello, viewers. We are very excited to talk about this episode review because lots of cool stuff happened. It's Season 3, Episode 6 of Picard called Bounty. Purely because there's a certain ship with that name coming up at some point in the show, I would imagine.
Oh, you gave it away.
I did not give nothing away. If you've listened to this without watching the episode, stop the bloody
Yeah.
video and go back and watch it,
Well,
would you?
Most people have already seen it, right? They're just listening to our blow-by-blow description, but they've already seen it.
Spoiler alert: Gray and I have the exact same score for this, which we'll reveal at the end, which says it all how much our Trek minds are in sync most of the time. Right, let's kick off, Mr. Gray, because I'm excited about this one, my man. And then we've got a little. We're going to try and do the preview of the trailer of each future episode or next week's episode coming up after it's Gray's Corner or Gray's Section. If you can think of a better name for that, let us know in the comments below. But briefly and quickly, by all means, we've started putting the YouTube videos into podcast platform on YouTube so that you literally don't need to look at this, and it's on the usual podcast platforms as well. So please, by all means, go there if you don't want to see us. And our man there, Gray, or he's maybe there, depending on what way you're looking. He's somewhere. He's somewhere. He's got Gray's Green Room as well, which I co-host with him, and that's a good laugh because that's just entertainment in general. And there is geek stuff in there. There's superhero, Marvel, DC, action stuff, all the good streaming stuff that's out there. We cover a lot of it. And he is at Gray's Green Room on Twitter and podcast platforms and the YouTube. So thank you, please. Right, okay, doke. This opening scene of this episode I liked, and I think an episode Gray has to start not necessarily with a bang, but not dull and boring, you know? And this one did after its little Star Trek episode. We have several Federation starships coming out of warp, and they're coming out of warp, stopping on a dime, so the American saying goes, stopping on a dime, and the strike is there as well, and they're all coming top of this transponder thing, or not transponder, call it a buoy or a decoy, Gray, if that was safe to call
decoy,
it. Yeah, it's the usual
beep, 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 beep.
Exactly, yeah. Like, even though there's no sound in space, but it's beep, beep, beep anyway. And I knew straight away what this was, Gray, because you've got Picard on board, you've got Riker on board, you've got Dipshit on board, aka Shaw, and 7 genius, brilliant minds who know how to play hide and seek, and they're doing it really, really well with this thing here. But I'm going to trouble your Trek engineering brain here for a minute, Gray.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell, in all these years and decades of Star Trek, are starships able to come out of warp and stop like that? There's a thing called momentum. I'm really. Have you ever wondered that? I've just wondered that today. No way.
I think
Physics.
there's something different when you come out of warp as opposed
Reverse
to
warp.
I think the difference is warp and impulse is impulse. So warp is something that starts and stops more or less on a dime, like we were saying, and that's all it's designed to do. So because it's going awfully fast, so it's got to stop awfully fast, and then from there, it's your impulse engines, etc., take off.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also for dramatic effect. I mean,
of course.
Too. You're not going to want to see a ship pop in over there. You want to right in front of your face.
And Terry's doing the Starship stuff really, really well. We'll get into that. The Star Trek porn that's coming up, and it literally is Star Trek porn, or Starship porn. Sorry, rephrase my words a bit better. He has the sound effects and little nuances of the ship, and the sound effects down to a T because
great music again.
Yeah, exactly. Great music, and the score in general. When I say the score, for those that don't know, that's just all audio throughout the whole episode or movie. Like the little musical hints and tunes, the little sound effects that make up the whole score of the episode are brilliant as usual. We'll get to that, of course. So they're all looking for Card and crew. They can't find them. They're playing a game of hide and seek. Vadic's not too pleased. It turns out the Titan is actually hanging stroke hiding out around a star. Now, they don't explain this, but common sense and a little bit of science and physics knowledge, stars give up a hell of a lot of magnetic energy and field, right? And that's
Yeah,
going to
all
throw
kinds of
off
stuff.
sensors, isn't it, Gray? That's going to hide them, at least some of the sensors. Visually, no, but of the sensors, it's going to hide them, isn't it? You would think.
Yeah, I would
Oh,
think certain amount. I mean, I think it's some
nice.
laws of physics. Some waves are not going to penetrate planet bodies as well as stars, and so that's why you're always able to hide behind a planet or hide behind an asteroid,
Or a
etc. Because it
moon, as
can't,
we'll get to.
or a moon, right? So you can't really see beyond that easily.
Yeah.
Of course, you could send off some drones or something, but that's only if you really need to know something.
But true, high tech sensors,
Yeah,
like, you can't physically get through something that bloody big, and they don't bend round last I checked, so that's
right.
why they get away with it so much. And I think I've answered my own little small gripe and comment that I'll get into later on that Gray may know about moons and hiding behind them. So, anyway, right, so they're chilling out, they're coming up with a kind of more of a plan. There's a little heart to heart with Picard and Jack. Um, just chewing the fat basically and catching up. But that's not the interesting part. Finally, we get more of the crew back together, plus Raffi, I guess. I don't really like to include her
Yeah,
in this
really.
one, Gray.
Yeah, yeah. She has to be there, unfortunately, but
Uh,
okay.
Riker and Raffi being back on board, well, not back on board for the first time, and get a little reunion. And who was it? Is it Beverly that goes up to Worf and gives him a hug? And then Riker's like, he doesn't like hugs. And she's basically like, man, I don't care. And he's just like,
Right. He's like, yeah, well, okay. I guess it's all right.
and then there was a little comment about they hadn't seen each other for 11 years or something, or so many months and days, right down to like almost
Yeah,
data-esque in a minute. And there was a comment about Picard's wine that he gave to Worf that I found dead
dwarf. Yeah.
really, really funny. What was that, Gray? The little deadpan
You said
comment?
it was. It says thanks for the sour mead. And he was talking about how the taste is like, yeah, not that great. And of course, this is good stuff back on Earth, and he's like a sour mead. I thought that was pretty funny. And if you know anything about mead, mead essentially back in the Viking days, especially, was nothing more than honey, wine, and maybe a couple other things. But it was basically a, a very ancient form of wine that doesn't taste like the wine today.
It tastes horrible, but maybe strong as hell because they didn't know how to like refine it and whatnot. So they were all
Yeah.
pretty much leathered back in the olden days, I would imagine, Gray.
Hey, to them it was great, right? As
Yeah,
long as
well,
they could just
it's
drink and
what
get,
it's what you know, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, blood wine. If that's sour mead, then God, well, blood wine must be very interesting. I want someone to make that. You know the Homer Duff beer that
Yeah.
they'd done for a little while. I want someone to do the blood wine, like just as it'll just be regular red wine, but with like I'll drink it. I don't even like red wine.
Just make it a little thicker, that's all, yeah.
And order it by the barrel as well. Uh,
We're gonna do that, they might as well go, somebody should produce Klingon Gagh. Gagh was those
oh,
worms, the
now you're
live worms
taking
in
the
the
piss,
bowl.
man. Now you're taking
They're
the
all
piss.
crawling around in the
I
bowl.
can do that. I'll just go out and look
Mm.
where the birds are and just like move aside, dig up a bunch of worms, stick it in a plate, and there you go, my man.
Just stick a bunch of gummy worms in there and have something on the
Well,
bottom moving them
yeah.
around. It's like, there you go. Mm.
Ray, man, I just want to watch the world burn. Right, so the Worf and Raffi are coming aboard because they've got a lot of intelligence that they need to give to the gang and come up with some kind of plan. And as we alluded to maybe last episode, they are going to try and break into the Daystrom, and I've spelt that incorrectly. That's shocking. The
I
Daystrom
fixed it.
Station, and we also mentioned last week's episode as well, Gray, that the Daystrom Station is changed quite a bit over the years. Like it's one point it was on Earth, one point it was in space. A couple of times it's looked completely different. It doesn't look like a station. It looks like a massive sensor array. I don't know if
I
you
think
get
it's
that
just
vibe.
probably a natural progression over the hundreds of years. They just keep getting a bigger complex, or something. At
Yeah.
least it looks the part, I guess, now.
Yeah. It
Whatever.
looks well impressive now, to be honest with you. Didn't see any phasers or phaser turrets or torpedoes or anything on that thing. I would like to have seen some defenses on it, actually. That would have been cool. Or offenses, should I say. Yeah, so they're literally... just
Yeah,
read the next...
actually, they don't even need defenses. They just use some of the high tech stuff they've been stealing, acquiring. And they'll just use those. They'll just use those weapons. Who knows what they are?
We'll get
Probably
to
nobody
that.
wants to go near there.
We get to that, and there's all kinds of crazy shit on there, man. So yeah, literally, Picard says that they're going to literally burgle the place. It's going to be a burglary, and to which Riker Wee's one-liners in this season is just brilliant. It's deadpan, excellent use of the word burglar, Admiral, and I was like, yeah, that's spot on. And then straight away, immediately followed by an agreeing nod from Shaw, just like,
yeah.
I'm liking Shaw more after this, man. Little bit by little, he is a dick, but he's a funny dick, and you just admire the acting that goes into it, you know.
He wasn't in this episode that much, but the parts that he was in was good.
Yeah, I would say so. But like I said, like him a little bit more than we did, and by the end of it, we'll probably love him and want him back again in some form of, maybe not his own show, but anyway. So the Titan at this stage heads, makes a beeline from Daystrom. They know they won't get too long to basically do what they need to do, and they've got a key. Worf has acquired a key to, basically bypass at least initial security for the first hour or so, and then they're up certain creek without a paddle. And what did they do? Our little comment from before, Gray. Where did they go hiding so that no one sees them? The Titan
behind the moon, of course. Temporarily you can hang out there.
How many times have we seen that, man? It doesn't last too long. They do find them at some point, which some common sense comes out. It's like,
obviously,
where are they? There's a big moon just there. Maybe we should go over there and have to take a look,
It's really perspective. I mean, if they're flying high, oh, there it is. Or if they're flying a little low, oh, there it is.
Perspective.
Eventually.
Exactly. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I can just see them talking to each other going, hey, check and see if they're doing the behind the planet maneuver. go check it out.
See, the planet one's a bit more difficult to pull off. It's a lot more, well, actually it's easier. It's a lot bigger than a moon, so you could be hiding at more places and angles. But whatnot, the old trick of hiding behind a planetary body, that, is working for at least a little while. And I do mention here that why is there always a bloody moon available to hide behind? But hey, plot mechanics. Who am I to argue with that? And then a funny little moment between Worf, Raffi, and Seven, where Worf and Raffi are trying to... Sorry, Raffi and Seven are trying to talk to each other briefly. You know that awkwardness between couples that just broken up?
And by the way, to drop back on this a little bit, if you didn't see Picard season 1 and 2, and you might as well not bother, there was a whole thing about that apparently Raffi is Seven's girlfriend, or was Seven's girlfriend for a little while in those series.
Just dropped it like that,
which was really stupid too. But okay, so they're playing up on this, and so they're meeting uncomfortably after they broke up and everything, and then Worf was funny. He was trying to sit there and go like, well, on my planet we have these difficulties, and then they just politely basically told him that to shut up because it wasn't working. And then he goes, good, because on my planet it doesn't go real well. Somebody ends up dead. that was great. It was like,
Worf was one line, like Riker does them and Worf does them. They both do them well, but Worf does them a little bit better because his sense of humor is so deadpan.
Yeah,
it's a passive
dry.
So very dry, mate, like Sahara dry. Jesus. They're all going to beam over. Well, not all of them. Sorry, we've got Riker, Worf, Raffi, not Picard. Have we got? I think that was it. No, Seven stays back. Yeah, right. So there's like what, 3 of them, 4 of them, and
Jack. Didn't Jack go over?
No, he stays. He stays. There's like 3 of them, I think, that go over, mate.
Excuse us, we're just brain dead.
We are brain dead. Yeah, and then just we saw this in the teaser trailer for the season way back when they're about to beam over, and they make a comment about, "Hey, Worf, don't worry, if anything goes wrong, Worf will be your guy. It's a Klingon guy. He'll save you." And he's like, "Don't you know he's practicing pacifism now?" And that's when they're beaming out. And Riker goes, "So we're all going to die."
Yeah, exactly.
That's a brilliant line, man. I love that. Those two are the best things to happen to this season, man. I'm telling you, those two crack me up. There is a little comment. I haven't noted this down anywhere, Gray, but at one point when they're on the station, they do. This is nothing to do with the notes. Riker's still taking the piss out of Worf a little bit, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but he mentions something, and he's waiting for the comeback, and it's the whole thing where Worf's talking about, "Oh, you like to use humor to deflect your."
When somebody's like down or
scaredness.
somebody's afraid of something, you like to throw the humor at them.
Yeah,
That was the part where we haven't gotten to yet, but that was the part where he was
we didn't
looking.
note it down, so
Yeah, we're at the Daystrom lab, and
yeah.
he sees a tribble.
Yeah. At one point, yeah, that's true.
And then
Jumping
the
ahead,
comment came
but
right after that.
it came straight to my head there, so that was one of
Yeah.
the things they find. But yeah, that was amusing just because Riker's like, "Well, you normally give it back," and he used to give it back, but now he's not. So anyway, I think he'll chill out a little bit more by the end of the season, Gray. That's what I predict will happen. Yeah, so the beam over. Surprisingly, really quickly, actually, like a lot quicker than I thought they would. The Changeling Feds, as I've now dubbed them now, Gray, that's now their name. The Changeling Feds catch up.
Fedlings?
I like it. I like it, Gray. Well done, mate. The Fedlings. Hopefully you've not been sitting in that for too long. You just come up with off like that. The Fedlings, not to be confused with the Foundlings from The Mandalorian.
No, that was Foundlings. This is Fedlings.
I know, not to be confused. The Fedlings catch up and they chase off the Titan because, surprise, surprise, they found them really quickly because, like, physics in real life is sometimes a thing. And they have to, like, do one because there's 3 starships there. They don't stand a chance against that.
Sure.
And they say they'll come back. And then the gang are off doing their own thing, which is pretty cool. We'll talk about some of the devices we see on. This is brilliant. Terry does this so well. Some of the devices we see on the station. I will let you talk about some of the devices, Gray, and I'll chip in because I'm a nice guy like that.
I love seeing this part because you if you're not looking, you don't recognize some of these things that are coming by. So they're
Ultimate
walking
Easter
through
eggs.
the Daystrom, right? They're walking through the whole Daystrom thing to get to wherever this AI
Mainframe.
They can, figure out how to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And as they're walking there, and all of a sudden, the first thing they pass by is the Genesis device. Now we know the Genesis device going back to Search for Spock and Wrath of Khan, etc. But the weird thing about this, it says Genesis device. It says Genesis
Mark
2.
I had to pause it. I almost missed it, mate. I had to pause it.
Yeah, because I'm going 2. Wait a minute, 2. So I'm going now. Is this a new version of the original one? They've been tinkering with or something. So could be. So that's there. So that was kind of like, all right, okay. And it was funny because you're hearing the little music changes here and there when they get to certain things like the Genesis device. You hear a little bit of stuff in the movie, and then as they start rounding the corner or whatever, immediately all of a sudden I see there's a bio read back of something in like a skeleton or a body, and there's a bunch of writing and stuff.
Who is it, Gray?
You clearly see Captain USS Enterprise, and I'm going like, whoa. And then all of a sudden at the bottom, you see clearly James T. Kirk. And I'm like, whoa. And then they play the appropriate music, the original theme music of the original series goes off. And I thought that was great. And you're looking at Kirk. And then I'm starting to think, I'm going like, well, wait a minute.
What could that mean, Gray? I'm confused.
I'm confused totally. So it's not a museum. So I'm sitting there going, the only thing I can think of is they have Kirk's remains. That means they had to go back to the planet that, I forgot the name, Viridian or something?
Viridian
and
3 or 4
3?
or something.
Yeah, something like that. And retrieve his body, I guess. So apparently I guess his body or an android that looks like him or something.
You not
So now
remember?
I'm
Do
sitting
you not
there going,
remember the book called The Captain and the Captains, the one I told you about, where the Romulans
yeah,
capture him and try to reanimate him? So I'll have Bill
yeah.
Shatner back for one more season of something. I don't even
Well,
care how they do it.
I was, yeah, I don't know what that's going to lead to or whether it's going to lead to anything. So they just kind of dropped that there so that the body is there and Kirk is there, you know.
Or
So
is he?
or is he right? So I'm
Yeah.
sitting there thinking like, okay, so if it's not a museum and they may not do anything, you really don't have to. But it really would be funny if Shatner appears and they just de-age him. But they got to de-age him a lot and make him lose a lot of weight.
Oh yeah, like listen. You're at least needing a RTX 4090 and a suite of them and the latest
Yeah.
processing power, man. That's a lot of de-age. No disrespect to the guy. Like, he is old, but he's doing well for being in his 90s.
Oh, of
So
course, of course. And or there might be an. I mean, I wouldn't put anything past Terry, but I don't. I have a feeling that probably won't happen. But I mean, you could see an android maybe come, but I just think it is what it is, and you just kind of have to wonder about it.
yeah.
But the reason why I think we thought that is going to be coming up later. I don't want to say why, but
Yes.
why we
That's why
think
I
that.
think they're similar and they're linked, Gray.
I kind of wanted to see more stuff like that to see if they could pull any. Now there was one, but it was all fuzzy. There was one where there was a, I don't know if it was an alien or a device,
I
and you
couldn't make
couldn't
that out.
read. You couldn't make it out, but the shape looked similar to something I've seen, and I'm like, I couldn't figure out what the heck that was.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really weird, to say the least. So
Well,
now we get into the next thing that happens. Go ahead there,
yeah,
Trev.
what was the other thing that you briefly noted in it before that we saw that involved the piss taking, but it wasn't your usual dribble type?
Oh, you mean as far as Worf?
Yeah, because it wasn't. He did see a trouble, and as soon as he sees the trouble, I'm
Right.
thinking
So
they're
we all
scared
see
of
the
them.
Tribble,
Yeah.
right? And we know the Tribbles don't like them, and they're both scared of the Tribble. But this was a little different. The Tribble all of a sudden opens up, and you see a bunch of teeth and claws on it. We're going like, wait a minute. And so apparently
Remember
it's
the head crabs from Half Life? More like that.
yeah. And this was like, okay, apparently they're breeding killer Tribbles now because this thing was pretty wild. And so he just, he warp jumps back, and that's when
Riker takes a
Riker makes the
piss.
funny, takes a piss out of him, and then he just goes like, "I like to make fun of things when people are down," or whatever he said. And
Very
then
jumpy.
that's when he came back and said, "Well, you used to come back at me on these things. Why aren't you doing that?"
Yeah. So good, man. So
And
good.
Raffi comes in and says something like, well, it's different now. Like, be quiet, Raffi.
Yeah, shut up, Rafi. Just do your intelligent stuff and stop trying to be
That's
funny
right.
because you're not funny.
I need her to die in this series. I
Oh
really do. I
Jesus
need to get
Christ,
stuck out
Gray,
of an airlock or
that
something.
is grim, man. we wanted.
She needs to get.
We,
I'm going in a heroic manner.
well, we wanted Shaw to die in the first episode because of how rude he was, or the second episode, and now we're like, no, we're thinking,
Yeah,
how do
no.
we fit him into future Trek? We don't want him to die, but yeah, okay, Rafi, then fine, okay. The humor is used correctly in this season, Gray. There's like 10-15% humor throughout the whole season, roughly, which is the appropriate level, whereas in previous things we've seen that are out with Star Trek, like the Marvel stuff, it's just been well over 50% humor, and you're just like, you're ruining it, it's turning into a comedy.
Yeah.
Just the right mix of humor, along with nostalgia, along with good story, along with good acting. That's my thoughts.
I think also too, and what's true about just human beings in general is some human beings react differently to a dangerous situation by using humor. Other
Yeah,
ones
true.
will break down and cry. Other ones will get really angry. So everybody has a different way how they process it. So it's not impossible to sit there and say that somebody's going to look on the humorous side to break it up.
Of course. Yeah, true.
And it's actually healthy for you to do something like that to break the tension so that you can pay attention to what you're doing.
We are still going to continue taking the piss out of Worf for getting scared of a trouble regardless, though. So, well done, Riker. 1-0 Riker. We finally see Professor Moriarty, right? Finally appears. Because this AI on board the station, I don't want to spoil it until we get to that later part, but it's basically a super AI. Like, it does whatever it needs to do to protect itself and its contents, and it's got different consciousness in its system, and it can pull in different characters. Whether Moriarty was ever there as part of the program, I don't know, Gray. Possibly, doubtful. We don't know. At least I don't recall. But it's got that knowledge that it can impersonate him, and it's probably got a copy of the files and whatnot. So while I don't think it's originally him, because he was off somewhere no one knows, I can't see how they ever
Right.
got him back. This makes a lot more sense
Yeah, it
on how they're
does.
doing it.
I thought it was brilliant how they did it because
Yeah.
as we'll see, and although we weren't sure at first, it isn't the Moriarty that was sent away. It was just the
Something
cheap
else.
facsimile or whatever you want to call it.
Fragments, memories.
Right, but dangerous enough because he was taking shots at him.
Oh,
So,
yeah, live rounds. Safeties are not a
yep.
thing with this guy. He comes in and he does the whole, pathetic old warrior speech and delightful and all the mannerisms and the sayings he had back in the TNG area. And he played it brilliant. I can't remember the actor's name, to be fair, but regardless, it was brilliant. And of course, the man, he can shoot them, but no one can shoot him because he's a bloody hologram, so not very fair. And then, again, we have a bit of the scene switching back and forth a little bit sometimes. So sometimes the notes are a little bit skew with because I don't see the point in putting one line in something, Gray, and then going and talking about this in it. So we jump then back to the Titan, which is getting to kind of the stuff we're liking a little bit. And you only see briefly, but you see these little... I've never seen this before. The little docking rings. It literally is a ring with nothing in the centre of it, with a bunch of ships around it. Now, at this stage, I didn't bother trying to zoom in because I knew we'd probably get to see up close what was there, Gray. But you could just tell briefly from an outline there's some older classic ships there ready to delight
I saw the
our
Enterprise.
eyeballs. You saw what?
Before we did the close up, I saw the Enterprise. I could see it
did.
in one of the rings. I knew,
Of course he did,
there.
man. He's got Enterprise vision, this guy, man. Not a bad ship, though. No, it was one of my favourites. I just note here, wow, because I saw briefly what was coming. I saw the tease and how great it was. Your man, Geordi LaForge, finally appears. Commodore, which, as we discussed before, is not a rank used much in previous Star Trek. I think it's the step before Admiral, safe to say. Or there was Commodore, there was Vice Admiral, and then Admiral. Right, that's, I think.
Yeah, I think. I forget how they exactly do it, but yeah. But there's been other Commodores. In the original series, probably the most famous
Commodore
was
Decker.
Commodore Decker, yeah.
Right,
and yep. But then what was it? The Ultimate Machine? No, can't remember the name of it now. Doomsday Machine. There you go.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Big long tube thing, and Decker takes over the Enterprise, and we're gonna kill it.
Yeah. So your man Jordan LaForge appears. He's not best impressed, as we saw from the season trailer we saw at the very, very start. He's literally telling the Titan to power down because he knows what they've been accused of doing, but obviously he'll take that with a pinch of salt. He's got to give the party line, just in case. Right. But he does beam over. He hashes it out with his old pals. And I think he's a bit...
Yeah, Daystrom's OM. But go
ahead. So if you wonder what the laughter was, then you just have to watch the YouTube version instead of the audio one for this one off to see what it was. Anyway, right. So
that's a way to get more people to subscribe.
Genius,
right there.
Man. Genius.
Yeah.
So yeah, he beams over and he makes up. I mean, great. In your opinion, right? I got an idea of what was going on here, but why do you think Geordi had such a problem with Picard and his old pals? Is it safe to say it's just because of now he's got kids and whatnot? Because he's asking for help and he's not really getting anywhere. What's your? You think it's just more family than anything else?
I mean, we're not really spoiling it, but we're kind of taking it in order. But essentially, I think that was a big part of it. I also think he just probably did it at first just by muscle memory, because he was going like, hey, all this stuff going on, just power down and like let's figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of like saying it because he didn't know what to say at that point. Until he beamed over to try to figure out.
He's got the party line to say in case anyone's listening or whatnot. So there's that as well.
I was almost wondering, like, when he beamed over with his daughter, LaForge's daughter.
Is that his real life one or his?
No, the real. if I remember correctly, the
Sydney's
real
real
life
life.
daughter is Sydney, who's
She's
piloting
hot.
the ship.
I like
That's a
Sydney.
real
She's hot.
daughter. That's a real
Hot.
daughter. The other one plays the daughter of Geordi, but it's not the
No, they're
actual
both his
daughter.
daughters, but only one of them is his real life daughter.
Right, exactly. So in any case, so Geordi comes over with his daughter, and the first thing I thought about at that time is I was going to go like, are they going to question the daughter to see if she's a changeling?
Oh, yeah, never thought of that.
You know,
And
they just
Geordi
kind
as
of
well.
yeah, they just kind of let that go by, and I was I mean,
But they
it's a,
can't.
it's a little it's a
Can't.
little nitpick. It's a little nitpick, but I would have thought you would have done it. I think they probably just figured like, what, it's a museum. Who cares? You know, in other words, there's no changelings aren't going to give a crap about becoming somebody at a museum.
Yeah, they
So
can
that's probably why.
they can ask questions, but they can't really detect anyone yet. We're not at that
Right.
stage yet. So yeah, you would have to interrogate them to find out if they're actually accurate or not. So yeah, apologies, we have jumped out of place once or twice, but sometimes these things just follow on, and you've got to just.
Yeah.
We then jump back to Daystrom again, OM and not UM, as Gray's corrected me on. He's a stickler for English. Moriarty is still trying to kill the away team, but you keep hearing like
Musical notes.
musical notes, yeah, from it sounds like a piano, and the guys are asking, what is that? And I don't know if this was initially a one-liner from Riker when he's like, I think that's an F flat or something, or F major, he says. And
No,
I'm like,
it's not. You know
thought,
the reason why he can pick it out, right?
no, because he's a musician, because he plays
Right,
the trombone, the trombone on
Trombone.
TNG. But I thought initially, for a brief moment, I thought, is it still Riker taking the piss? And he's kind of dry, funny sense of humor. And then I went, no, he knows music, so yeah, he wasn't being he wasn't being a smart arse. He was actually saying it was F flat or F major.
And I thought, again, that's another great writing thing.
Yeah.
They pick up on something that was you and I would just forget about, you know, and stuff, and they were able to get it in there. The fact that he is a musician, and then they were able to bring in the tune. And then he was trying to figure out the tune. And the cool thing was that then they flashed back to the actual episode of TNG where that music, where Riker first encountered the music. So I thought that was brilliant. It was just like, you know, I recognize this one. And then he just floats back to when that episode was. And it was great. I thought that, I mean, it's those little things and that just make it all cohesive. It's really cool.
Did you just steal my thunder, Gray? It's okay. I'll give you up, my nice guy. The bit about the starships is you're not getting that thunder. I'm definitely stealing that one. But
you have to.
Gray is right. You're the little. So to give you a better idea, because these parts are a little bit more important to like Gray and I like spending a couple of more moments speaking about them. And that's as Gray says, they're trying to figure out these notes that are coming out. And Riker's picking them up, and he's like, I recognise that. And then it's the scene of TNG in the holodeck where Riker's standing up against the tree, trying to whistle. What's the name of the tune? Do you remember, Gray? Actual real life name? No, it's something like that, yeah. And he can't quite finish the end of it.
Kids music.
Kids music, yeah, but still, you've got to start somewhere. Data, when he first starts off interacting with humans, in one way, effectively, as a kid, because you've got to learn. And Riker was looking from it, and he finishes the end of the tune that Data can't quite get his voice round. And I found they're putting scenes of that in along with Riker going, wait a minute. And then Moriarty's like confused, like was he making musical notes as well at that point?
Yeah, because I think so.
He was confused.
Well, the music was coming out of the AI, but he was saying that I can't get the damn song out of my head. Like an earworm.
Why.
And it's just not happening. And so Riker picks up on it, and then he knows how to end the song.
Which deactivates
so as soon as he whistles the end, Moriarty goes, oh, like, thank God, and then poof.
It's out of my head now, thank God. And as they switch off Moriarty, they finally find the mainframe, the data room, whatever, the central complex, and
I get it, data room. I had to. It was wide open.
That's too good. It's that funny. I can't actually laugh. That's just I've got nothing. That's got
Why
to
do we
be
say that? Of course, he'll tell you right now.
that's worth a subscription alone. Surely to God, guys. That if anything, um, I need to like turn that into a GIF or something. Great, keep just doing that. Yeah. So, in the data room, spoiling it now, Gray. We do see that little scene from beforehand in the seasonal trailer with the kind of white room, and you're thinking we thought that's maybe where we see Moriarty. We didn't. It was the scene before, but here we see an old android-looking Data there. Or is it lore? Is it B4? It's a bit confusing. What I wanted to
Well, they
ask you,
had
Gray,
to the left of the
I had a bit of
Android,
everything.
the old Data was B4, just his head though.
Yeah.
That was funny. So you see a head of B4, and then you see what looks like Data, but older,
Yeah.
and they're all trying to go like, "What the
What's
hell is
the
going
age
on?"
thing though? That's what I wanted to ask you. Do you remember the line they used of
Yeah.
why it was basically all these different consciousness of these different characters that we just mentioned there are all kind of in there in a mishmash. They've been helping run the AI of the station, so it's a bit of everything that's in there. But do you remember the aging thing? What was the explanation? I don't recall that one, but
What happened was somehow they tripped a holographic projection of Soong,
soon
and so,
that's it.
so Dr. Soong comes on and he starts explaining that he didn't want it to end this way. He was getting older now, and he wanted it to kind of maybe have another crack at it, and at a Data, which he only succeeded once. So he was working on a Data, and he came up with a Data model. But this time he decided that growing old is part of what happens. So he decided that he would put the aging into Data so that he could be like truly human like everyone else,
Yeah.
which is what Data always wanted to be anyway, just to be human,
But not leave him
more or
alone and
less.
dead in peace, though. This is the thing, though. Like
Well,
he's working
yeah.
him after he went gone. Like why? Or was this set beforehand? Like that's what I'm trying to
Well,
wrap my
here,
head around.
this was after this was well, okay.
We don't have a timeline of
Along
that.
along the From what I understand with the timeline, this was after, because he mentioned something about the android body that he made for Picard. So he did mention about that, and so apparently this came, I guess, later or whatever. I don't know. But in any case, so it kind of partially explains now why Data looks older, because we were all going like, well, I mean, you can only make Brent Spiner look so young. Now we're going to go back for a second to the season 1 and 2 of Picard, which again you
You
should
said
bother
we
watching.
shouldn't. I agree. You hate it.
Right, but because they felt that they had to, I don't know, make a continuity or explain something, and I get it, that's fine. So for those that didn't see those seasons, and don't bother, they had to explain how did Data look older, and so this is the explanation behind it. Now, what we saw though is not exactly, at least from what we think we saw in this episode, was the fact that it's not really Data per se. It was another attempt at Data, but it had basically all of, or quite a bit of, Data's memories, but it also
How?
had part.
How they were nuked in season 1? They were nuked.
Apparently, yeah, but
Backup.
remember, we're talking about Section 31 here, so something
True.
somewhere.
True.
31 probably stole this stuff and made copies or whatever. I mean, they actually integrated Data into the whole system so that he became the AI, which makes a lot of sense. I like how they wrote all that.
Yeah.
So essentially, now you have a Data slash lore slash B4 slash
Hybrid.
Soong slash God knows what. So almost like as funny as it sounds, it's true, but it's like Data with split personalities,
Yeah,
if there's
because
such a thing.
he's switching between them when he's talking to the
Right,
guys. He
right.
starts off as Data, then he goes to each Laura and B4 and
Right,
whichever
right,
one.
because we're going ahead a little bit, but they got him back to the ship, and then, of course, they're trying to get him going again, and he's, like, constantly going, like, Data, before, he's, like, fritzing
No,
out.
no, no. On the station, he was switching between them briefly at the start as well, man.
Yeah, briefly.
Yeah.
So, I really like that whole sequence. Now, let's go back a little bit, because we did see Picard season 1 and 2, unfortunately,
Yeah, unfortunately.
and so to us, and it seems like Brent Spiner is way overused, and I believe he was.
Yes.
The thing is, you can't really leave him out of a TNG episode where you're bringing back everybody. So he had to come up with some kind of reason that made some kind of sense to bring him back
Yes.
again. And they didn't hide from the fact that because Picard said it once or twice, he said that I watched Data die twice. This is too much for me. And so they didn't try to short shrift it and not pretend it never happened. It did, and Picard said that. But looking back, it's a shame that season 1 and 2 developed the way they did because yes, Brent Spiner was way overused. I was getting sick of seeing him as good as he is. And Data dying twice was stupid too because he died once. That's enough,
Yeah.
or whatever. So fine, I accept the second time the way they handled it. Whatever,
Yeah.
fine, but you didn't need to do it. And now you're explaining how he's going to come back again. But I thought the writing was for what they needed to do. I thought the writing was brilliant, and it was a good explanation of how they are bringing a Data ish back.
Yeah, I
So
liked it. I didn't have a problem with it. I just wish they'd spent a bit of budget de-aging him because he is a bloody android. There's no need for it to be the way it is. I know
I
it's an
know.
expensive process, but you want to bring him back, Terry. Do it properly. He shouldn't look like a burst football. My football, soccer ball. His face, like, I mean, I know he's older. I'm not taking a piss at anyone that's older. I'm not. You are who you are, but he's supposed to be an android. And ever since I saw him Picard, he looked like he'd swallowed a fucking helium balloon, man. He just big, and it didn't
Yeah, I know.
look right at all, man. Just de-aged the guy. But anyway, apart from that, no problem. Great, you're right. He has to be
Yep.
part of the show. That's the way it is. So yeah. Now you're not getting this bit, Gray. You'll get a comment on it, of course. But you're not getting this bit. You get a comment then.
Sorry.
This is the best bit of the episode.
Only because of the first one we see. That's why you're getting it.
No, actually, no.
Yeah. You know the
I,
first ship
I,
that pops
I,
up. We know what that ship is.
yes, we like it. Now, take a deep breath. We're getting excited now.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I like 3/4 of these ships, if not all of them. To be fair, this is the bit where they're on the bridge
They're
of
in
the
the
Titan.
space museum.
No, not initially. They're outside there, but they're on. We're on. The scene is bridge of the Titan. Seven and Jack are sitting there. Jack goes to sit down in the captain's chair. She's like, off.
Right. Yeah.
No chance. And he's like, I'm
No.
just testing it out, man. Come on, chill. And then she just lets it slide. Because Seven is cool despite being, usually mostly applying to the rules. But so he gets to chill out in the
Could have
chair.
grabbed him and punched him and said get off, but she didn't do that.
No, she didn't. She's nice like that. And they're kind of just chewing the fat a little bit. And then this is cool, she's got a little side panel beside her that's got a bunch of ships along it. Like, how convenient. You've got an L card just for the menu. It's like a menu, but for starships. A starship menu.
Oh, wait. Let's go back a little bit. The reason why I said museum is because remember they said that they were looking for an empty ring that they could they could shove their
Hide
ship
in.
into.
Yeah, that's true.
So once they did that, they actually became part of the museum. So the ring that they were in she was accessing the museum.
Are they in the ring at the time though, Gray, or is it after this scene that they're in the ring?
No, they were already in the ring.
Right.
They were already in the ring when the scene came up, and then she's got the access to
Everything
the
that's
whole
there.
museum.
Yeah.
And so she was just popping. But it was pretty cool because it had like the outline of all the ships we're familiar with.
Yeah.
You see the
It
little,
did.
she's pushing on the buttons.
It's like a
pretty cool.
menu it's a starship menu.
I want one of those.
The thing about this scene is the Titan is in one of these rings that Gray mentions, but it looks more advanced than every other bloody ship there. So even visually, you could suss that one out. I'm not complaining about that scene. I'm just like, come on, it's the most clearly it looks like the most advanced ship of the whole museum fleet.
Right,
there,
but I think they were using the old hiding in plain sight thing that they
yeah, true. Well, look how
the
that
museum
got
is not
them.
important. They're not really looking for that.
Yeah. Okay, right. Well, we've been teasing it a bit too long. You know what's coming because you watched the episode, hopefully. But we do get to look at a bunch of the older ships there that basically they get them back to, it looks on the outside, some form of functionality because the lights are all blinking away, so there's power there. I'd imagine like the phasers and the weapons and the engines are taken out, but you could probably beam on the ship. The life support is there, safe to say, there is power.
Sure.
And the first ship we see, along with the music, is the USS Defiant, formerly known as the Sao Paulo, renamed with special dispensation from Admiral Ross. Remember that well. With the DS9 music in the background, and she looks good. She looks real good.
Yep.
And then we move on to the USS Jersey. Now, Gray and I, well, actually, I'll give Gray the credit here. He's done a little bit of digging because I'm like, the USS what? And probably Gray was initially as well until we researched, like, what the hell is this doing here? We found out essentially it is a Constitution class ship. We don't see the original Enterprise because, well, Kirk blew the bloody thing up. So you can't put it in a museum. So they thought, let's put a Connie in there and let's make it the Jersey because Terry Metalis is from New Jersey, and we're complaining tongue-in-cheek that Terry is getting too much named after him. It's a solar system, and now with several planets, and now his own ship. We weren't complaining, no, Greg, because it was a Connie, so...
Yeah. And was the USS New Jersey where he was born, and the 1975, NCC 1975 was the year he was born. So that's how they got the 1975. Because there is no 1975. Now I went and looked anyway, just out of curiosity, to see where this was coming from, and there really isn't. There was an NCC 1755, which was a Kirov class Federation battle cruiser in the mid 23rd century. So that's in canon. There was a USS New Jersey. Off canon, there was a USS New Jersey that was an Excelsior class cruiser that is not considered canon, but it's in the extended, whatever you want to call it, of Star Trek. And then in turn, if you really want to go back further, it was named after the USS New Jersey, which was a battleship in World War II, a U.S. Navy battleship, which I happened to find out too was the most decorated battleship in U.S. naval history, and lasted from 1938 until 1991.
The Nazis never got it. Wow, nice one.
So it was in service for off and on for over 50 years. So there's usually, with a lot of names that they name Federation starships, they always try to look towards back at the U.S. Navy and sometimes even other countries to see if there's something famous.
It would be nice if there was more British ships in there, man. Come on, it's always bloody.
I think there is. They're not called HMS, but I think they do take some of the names.
Yeah,
sure.
Of course.
But that was pretty cool. So I was like, all right, we had to have a old original TOS type Constellation ship,
and that was
that was in New Jersey.
We then see Gray's favourite ship and my second favourite ship, which is the Enterprise A, which, as we discussed before, we've got a special about our favourite top 5 starships, by the way, guys, in the playlist, this special playlist, so you can go back, check that out and explain why, but essentially, it looks like the refit of the original Enterprise. It's just a funny how it all worked out then for like budgeting reasons and how far CGI and special effects moved on, and that's probably why I like it and Gray likes it. I mean, I know he loves the original Connie. It's a special place in your heart, Gray, but I love this one and you do too. And then Jack says, "Oh yeah, I know this one. It's my favourite." And probably Gray's just like, "Yes, good choice, Jack.
I'm just dying when I'm watching this. He goes, Kirk's Enterprise. And he's like all googly eyed, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's nice to see as well. But then, Seven is figuratively saying and hinting, yeah, it's cool, but hold my beer. Wait a second. Then she pulls up the USS Voyager. No bloody A, B, C, D, or E yet.
By the way, even though we've said this before, when the Defiant came out, of course, DS9 music. When the Enterprise 1701 and K came up, the original series theme comes up, and when they got to the Voyager, you heard the Voyager original
theme music
pop up as well
properly.
All very important.
It was a tiny little bit of the music, but it's not reworked like it was in, say, Prodigy.
The actual.
That was a bugbear of Grey and I's and Prodigy. You would hear hints of Voyager stuff, but it was like a very skew with altered version of it, which we didn't like.
This is straightforward.
And Jack's response is, "Oh, she's a beauty." I can almost see like Seven going, "Well, duh, of course." And then she just gives a little spiel about, that's the USS Voyager. So she's basically saying, with all respect to the other ships who are legendary, she went, this one literally and figuratively went further than any of those other legendary ships out there. Oh, she did. They definitely did.
She said the word, yeah, you use the word relics, and any of those other relics went. And
Well, they are relics, but they're legendary relics.
well, she said that. I'm just saying
Yeah,
because
true,
she's
true,
got the
true.
favorite the favorite spot for Voyager,
Which,
obviously.
yeah, I mean, she is right. It literally is. I mean, there's no Enterprise D here, which is really disappointing because I know half of
Well,
it went
so
kablooey.
far.
It's, I mean, it's so far. Well, so far, I don't think there will, because we saw one old Enterprise, and we'll get to see the F mate. That's the two Enterprises I think that we're talking about.
Right.
You
But
might.
don't
I
be
hope I'm
surprised.
wrong.
Don't be surprised. You might,
True.
you know.
But you don't see the D, and you could have argued that the D's been further because the D has been to the other side of the known universe. So that
Mhm.
could have won. But anyway, yeah, so you see Sevens, she's a bit emotional about this, clearly. She went, this is literally where I became the person I was. My crew or my
She
family
was reborn on the ship.
reborn, and she's a bit emotional, but in a nice kind of thinking back to what was before with a smile on her face.
I think if you watch, because I rewound that scene about 5 times.
Oh, hell yes, mate.
I
At
had
least.
to.
Yeah.
But if you really watch Jerry Ryan, I think she really got into that
She nailed
because
it, man.
I think she really cared a lot about it because you really saw like the emotion on her
That
face.
wasn't
That wasn't
acting, though,
just
Gray. That was literally her
what
being fond of what
right,
happened in the past.
right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So she really was letting loose on that one because it meant a lot to her,
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So that was pretty cool. That
The
whole scene, though, like I said, I'm not afraid to say it. I was getting teary eyed and everything. I mean, it was just too much. It was just like it was great. Not too much in a good way.
yeah.
And
I know what you
I
mean.
just loved it. And I just go back, rewind. Yeah,
Several
yeah. Go
times.
back, rewind. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh wait, one more time. No, wait, one more time.
The last ship we see is the HMS Bounty. Now, it took me a hot moment to get it. I did get it just before it was announced. But I was like, a bird of prey? What the smeg? And then, yes, that is the HMS Bounty, the
Yep.
shit from Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. And apparently, the little comment I loved here, Gray, was they couldn't find it for ages because when it went down under the water, because when it was on top of the water going down, you could see it was fine. But apparently, when it went under the water, it cloaked.
Yeah,
So trying to
exactly.
find a cloaked starship with next to no power at the bottom of an ocean is even difficult in Star Trek times.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Hey, planet's a planet. Your ship is a speck, so it's pretty.
So I like
Yeah.
that little touch. They managed to find it and then put it back in its place. And I'm surprised the Klingons are okay with that. Just saying, Gray.
Well, I mean, they are a piece. I mean,
Yeah, but at the time they weren't.
no,
Not till a while after that.
true.
I mean,
Maybe
so
they did. Maybe they bought it back. Well, it was always in possession of Starfleet anyway. So yeah, but they're not going to go to war over it.
no,
That's
I
for
know,
sure.
I know, I know. But you know what it's like with militaries these
Yeah.
days. As soon as a ship goes down, they blow it up or something, so no one gets a hold of
Okay.
any of the tech. But yeah, so your thoughts on this scene in general, I guess, Gray. I know you've chipped in a couple of comments, but we both generally loved it, and I know you
Oh, yeah.
really loved seeing this, didn't you?
Yep. Definitely geeked out on the whole thing. It was superb. And as soon as I saw the bird of prey, I knew exactly right away that
Yeah.
was Star Trek 4. And then they start talking. Oh, and and Jack goes, "Oh yeah, it was that whale thing."
The whale thing, that's it. Yeah, that
That was
comment was
funny
brilliant.
because I see. Yeah, that's it. That was it.
I
So
just
that was
the whale thing. I just randomly the comment came in my head of Scotty picking up the mouse for the computer and going, "Hello, computer."
computer, computer. Oh, computer. Like nothing's
Just
happening.
use the keyboard. How quaint. Anyway,
That's when he got into. He was talking to the other scientists there, and Scotty goes, "Transparent aluminum," and the guy's going,
what?
"Transparent aluminum? What are you talking about?" It's like,
And he gave him the
like that.
he gives him
Eh,
the molecular
the
formula
formula or
for it. He's
whatever it
like,
was. Yeah.
Bones is like, how do you know? Like, we're not breaking anything in history. Like, how do you know that he didn't invent the stuff? And they're like, but anyway, right. So we geeked out enough on that. It deserved a bit extra time and attention, that scene. So Terry, well
Right.
done, my man. We'll give you the starship name as well. You've done a good job. There's then the usual little heart-to-heart between Geordie and Sydney because they don't go on as well because, in theory, we don't know at this stage, but at this point, she didn't follow her father's ways into engineering. She was the pilot, the speedster, and they're just having a little bit of a heart-to-heart. and then we come to the conclusion, or we find out that Geordi literally won't help the Titan because of, like we jumped ahead before, his family's got to look after his daughters. He'll get court-martialed, blah, 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 blah. Which, I don't disrespect him for that. I get what he's doing. You would do the same in his shoes, but kind of disappointing at the same time. And then we have, I like this little bit here. We have Jack and the two LaForge sisters coming up with a brilliant plan. And this whole time, Jack is flirting with Sydney. This is the speedster pilot. I like this little bit to and forth. I can't remember the other sister's name, but she literally sees what's going on, obviously, and she's saying to Jack, "Hey, time to reset your phasers, pal. Calm down. This is my sister here you're talking about."
That's translation. Put it back in your pants. That kind of thing.
Exactly. Set it to stun only, mate. It's on kill. Calm down. And the plan to come up
by the way, I don't know if you remember, but prior to that scene, when they're on the bridge and Seven was going through the ships and they popped up with the bird of prey, Jack says with the kind of a funny looking eyes, he goes like, "Yeah, the cloaking device."
That's a good point, mate. It was a brief, quick one-liner in a moment. In Blinker, you wouldn't miss it. You're right though. Yeah. And that,
so he was already thinking ahead, and then he got the sisters involved.
That's what this plan. It's Jack's plan. To be fair, credit where credit's due. He literally, he's like, cloaking device, and I've got a brilliant plan, and straight away that they're going to try and work this cloaking device into the ship, because now, an important point to remind you all, if you're diehard Trekkies, you'll know this, but we appeal to all. The Treaty of Algeron is null and void because the Romulan Star Empire, as we once knew it, doesn't exist. So it's the Romulan Free State now. So they can use cloak if they want. And they should be using cloak a lot more. But I guess for a story point of view, Gray, it doesn't work the best. It's probably why they never had it in the first place, that and a lack of special effects.
It takes up a lot of power, and you can't do a lot of things when you're cloaked.
And I'm talking, you're right, but I'm talking about in terms of storylines, writing a plot, you don't want that. That's probably why one of the reasons they didn't have it back way in the olden days. So, so they're going to work it into ship, which I think is brilliant. And then we have a funny moment after where Shaw is speaking to Geordi. And he's a little bit tongue-tied at this stage, Great. He's a little bit in awe because he's meeting one of his heroes, the legendary Commodore LaForge. And you like this little scene as well, Gray, because, there's two engineers getting together. It's Sean not being a dick for once and actually giving some admiration and respect to a fellow legend. Or not fellow legend, but a legend.
I got to give credit to the actor because he plays Shaw perfectly, because Shaw was a grease monkey. He said he was. He helped.
And a dipshit from Chicago.
Up the episode before, right? And then all of a sudden he's meeting like his hero, and he's just like, and he's fumbling for words and everything. And then Jordy's saying like, well, he's giving him a relative compliment because he was saying like, well, good job at keeping it together because it's barely, you're using duct tape or what, So I gave him a little comment, but it was really, it was a real, true, good acting because he really was fumbling around over himself, meeting him and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
He mentioned a bit about the hull being paper thin. I'm like, why is it paper thin? I know you said you've got a big hole in your ship, which we know.
Old tech. He mentioned old tech too.
But it's paper thin?
From all the attacks, I guess, is what he's talking about.
Maybe. You need to start getting ablative armor in all your starships by default, man. Anyway, we move on with the cloak.
Still the cloaking device.
We're still on the cloaking.
Hold it.
It's kind of failing. They are trying to, Jack and Sydney, get it working, and it initially does cloak with the old school sound effect and animation and whatnot, which I love. And then it kind of blows up a little bit of smoke and whatnot.
Sparks start flying.
And they're like, oh no! But it's like,
then they all start going. She said, or he's both, or he. Sydney, I forget.
He's like,
we're gonna blow the ship up.
Yeah,
kind of. I'm exaggerating.
Sydney doesn't know how to fix it, and as soon as she says that though, Geordi walks out and he goes, Yeah, but I know how to fix it. Hold my beer or hold my spanner.
Exactly. I'll
Um,
work with.
and Gray and I both loved this scene. It was one of the most famous
Yeah.
engineers in Starfleet coming to the rescue and saving the day, getting back to what he's best at. Um, and then we have, so I was distracted there for a little bit just because it was such a good bloody scene that I loved that.
Yeah.
We have a little shootout back on the Daystrom Station as they're trying to escape. And they're a bit in a phaser fight at this stage, so they have to wait until the Titan gets close enough, drops its cloak, beams them up, and then Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your-
Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Gray loves that saying. It's a British saying.
Yeah.
And Riker just goes ham. He just goes nuts, and he goes, "I'll buy you the time so we can get out." And he just goes mowing down the bad guys, man, because it's all the what do we call them? Not changelings, fedlings. All the fedlings are coming
Fedlings.
across, and then just literally now Riker says, "Boom, boom, boom," takes out loads of them, and just as they all literally beam up, one of them gets because they're not trying to kill them; they need to capture them. They get a transport inhibitor, which was actually from Star Trek Insurrection, if you remember. It looked exactly the same, little dart thing. Hits Riker. He's like, it wasn't a shot, it was the inhibitor. The rest of them beam off, beam away, beam off, beam up, and then Riker's stuck there, captured. You're like, okay. Gray notes here. He's the proper hero. And he's the cowboy. He's like the Kirk of the TNG era, isn't he? So
Yeah.
he's the guy to save the day, really. So
He knew they had to get off the ship. Somebody had to do something, so he decided that he would take the brunt.
exactly.
And knowing that he could be killed or captured, but he did anyway.
And he's got a daughter. He's got a son and a wife and whatnot. So brave moment from Will Riker there. We have a little nice moment with Jack and Picard, little heart to heart, where he's trying to make Picard feel a bit better. And he says, "Hey, you might have given me some the crap bits, but you've also given me some of the good bits. Here are some of the traits I got from my mother, and these other traits that I didn't really know where they came from. I now know that most likely just came from you." So he's worried about this disease because what we didn't mention is Jack has the same disease that his father's got. It's hereditary, it's passed down. Picard feels awful about it. So does Beverly, but especially Picard. And we understand that he's like, how many years have you got? How many years have I got? Jack's saying to live. Picard's like, hey, I went decades, so listen, try and lead your best life. And it's a nice little scene. It wasn't just a tune the fat for no reason. Great. It was actually meaningful to the plot and the father and son bonding that little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. It was a good scene. I mean, it was necessary, and Jack coming full around and realizing things.
Yeah, at the very start of the episode, there was a little touching moment on Beverly bringing Picard up to speed on the situation with her son, scanning his brain, and like so many areas of his brain in the scan are actually red. Everything's super active, and she knows that there's something not quite right with him, and that's when she discovers the disease. They haven't quite got to the root of what these visions are all about yet. I'm sure we will get to that, but so we go back to Sydney helping her old man fix the cloak, and Geordie asks for a certain tool, and she goes, no, don't you mean such and such a tool, and gives him that instead. And he's like, huh? You're a pilot. She's like I crashed several ships on purpose because I wanted to spend time with my old man fixing them up. I love that scene as well, Grace. So did you. So she was focusing. She's a good pilot and she's a good engineer. Who not? I mean, jobs are good in that respect. We then see a reactivated Data Plus, as I'm calling them.
Data Plus. Data unknown.
Data
something.
Plus. Data 3.0 or whatever we're up to these days. And he starts talking like he did before as himself, but he jumps between characters, goes through all three of them. I just note here that I will get to this at the end. I just wish they would let him die in peace, and we've touched on this briefly as well. Gray did as well. We've seen him die twice, so has Picard. We know why we have to bring him back, but that was my only gripe, that just leave the man alone. But yeah, we'll move on and not complain too much more about it. Data starts speaking, but then the lore part of him comes out, followed by B4, etc., etc. And he keeps saying initially, when they're trying to find out this weapon that's stolen above the portal weapon, it sounds like a glitch from Data, where he's just going, Jean-Luc Picard, Jean-Luc Picard. And he's like, where's it? Was it Worf that says, where's the reset button on him?
Yeah, exactly.
Turn it off and turn it back on again. That's what I tell all my guys at work, because I work in IT. And they do think it's a malfunction, but it's not, because he actually, this was a bit freaky. This was like droid-esque from Star Wars, Grey. Out of Data's eyes, like hollow vision comes out, like a hologram comes out, and it's a picture of Jean-Luc Picard's body. And it literally was, that's what they've stolen. Vadik and our minions, our cronies, they've literally stolen the remains of Jean-Luc Picard. Now, who signed off on his remains? Like, Jean-Luc Picard's entitled to have his remains where he wants. I'm sure he didn't sign off on that. So
yeah, well, apparently Section 31 is doing some interesting stuff. Yeah, a little shady.
Like,
so now you can see where there's some, or maybe we don't know yet. They're drawing some kind of correlation between the old man and the son, because now they stole apparently Picard's body.
Mm-hmm.
They keep wanting Jack back no matter what. We need Jack. We need the boy. We need to get him. And it's just, and you don't know why, except for little things that we've seen. We still don't really know why. So now they stole the body. I'm going like, okay, stole the body. He's the son. They need to get him. It's like super important. Where's the connection? So everything's starting to gel or come together, I think.
Yeah, you put a comment on my comment here, Gray. You'll probably touch on it for a moment, that it's far-fetched, but my theory was that they probably found a way to cure, or they will by the end of this, the disease that Picard's got, and transfer his consciousness from his android body into his old body, his actual flesh and blood body again, right? Now, Ray notes here that it's a bit far-fetched. It was only done once before, back in Star Trek 3, the movie, Search for Spock. And that's where Spock's mind was in McCoy's body, and it was screwing with McCoy's brain, because a human brain wasn't designed to take two consciousness like that. But they get it out, the Catra, they get it out using Vulcan sites and Vulcan lore and mind meld methods, and they get it out and put it back into Spock's body. So my point to your thinking, Gray, is it is possible, certainly from human to Vulcan. I don't see why it can't be done from human to human, especially if they cure the Picard disease. Because then what they'll do, Gray, is they'll cure it for Jack as well. If they can cure it with Picard and get his consciousness back in, they'll then be able to cure Jack and the same illness he's got, and then Bob's your uncle. No thoughts?
Well, even Jack had said when he was talking about the problem with in their brains, this issue, the disease, he was asking Picard where they had a spare positronic body laying around that they could put him in. So yeah, I'm not saying that they're not coming up to this. What you're saying, you could be right. I just hope they handle it properly, because I don't know. Because in Search for Spock, remember, it was Vulcans doing this. The Vulcans knew what to do. They knew how to get Spock's Catra out. They knew how to get it back into the body.
Yeah, but get a Vulcan involved at the end. That's what I'm saying. Get the pros in.
Yeah, but now you're talking about positronics, a body, human body. Nothing's Vulcan. Remember, Spock was Vulcan, even if it was half Vulcan.
Doesn't matter. There's still a consciousness in that robot. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but this was something that was purely Vulcan.
You're right.
So I mean, I hope you're right. I just say that if they're going to do that,
well, properly,
write
it well. But they've been writing well all through it. So if anyone can pull it off, it's Terry and his writers.
Yeah.
It is far-fetched, but we'll see what happens there. I mean, why Steelers remains? There's got to be a reason for it. So
Mhm.
yeah, we'll find out, of course, what it is. But yeah, getting to kind of the end of the review, and apologies, it is a bit longer than normal, just because you'll see by our score at the end and all the good stuff we saw, it just naturally went a bit longer. At the
Mhm.
very, very end here, we've got Riker getting the crap beat out of him by Vadic's cronies, possibly. This alien Starfleet officer, obviously a changeling, turns round. He's basically, where is everyone? Slap, and Riker's just kind of smiling. I won't tell you nothing, being the typical kind of hero dude that he is. And then the officer interrogating him turns round and phasers kills both of the two flanking officers. And then she turns into, sorry, he then turns into Vadik. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Is she a bloody
No, me
changeling? Is
neither.
she not? I think she's a changeling, mate. I'm calling it. I think Vadik's a changeling.
I think she is too, but there's something weird about her. So yeah.
There really is. Just because the bit that comes off her hand to talk to, yeah.
Um,
Um, he's interrogating him, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to, give up my pals. It's not happening. She went, oh, I know, but you will do it for this reason. And then it kind of turns around. You see Luke and Riker's face just drop and change. And I knew it was happening straight away. He turned
yeah.
round, and then he looks distraught. You see Troy behind bars, behind a force field. And I thought it was going to be Troy and the kid, but it was just Troy. And she just is like, oh, well, like, what have you done now, kind of thing. And he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
It's a
It
nice
was
cliffhanger, Gray.
very good for cliffhanger, and it brings up, please write this right, because it looks like they're. I made a little thing at the end because
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in the next gen crew dies.
Bloody
There's
better
been
not.
little rumors that they aren't all coming back from this. It's been said before. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if someone in the original crew dies.
Why?
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them. I really wouldn't.
I get the hints from Terry that he wouldn't do that, but,
We'll see.
it's.
They're really gonna have to figure out a good way that she escapes death, because it doesn't look very good.
Well, yeah, exactly. As long as if she escapes, like, don't make it just cliche and stereotypical and the usual. Like,
Right.
make these things happen in a way that's kind of cool. That would be nice. Um, so yeah, nice follow on to the next week's episode. But before we briefly talk about the preview episode 7, in Gray's section or Gray's corner, we'll give our kind of quick scores. And mine is 9.5 out of 10, almost perfect. The Starship porn made it for me. I was very, very happy about that. I was just a little bit fed up of the whole data thing. That's what kind of brought it down slightly for me, because let the character die in bloody peace. But Terry, he had to work with him. Gray mentioned that he is part of the crew. He has to be involved in a reunion, but he also has to work with the tools that have been given to him by the mess ups of season 1 and 2. Can't really do a lot
Right.
about that. So 9.5 out of 10. It's getting better and better. It's hard to actually follow this one. Great, your score and final thought.
Yep. Same thing. 9.5 out of 10. And my reasons are a little different. I, while I do understand the data thing, I did like the explanation behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do accept all that, but it brought it down a half a point because Rafi's
Oh,
still
come on.
there.
She's had most episodes, man. You can't do that. Oh, that
She's
is
in
so
too many
harsh.
episodes, man. Just come on. Even in this episode, every time she was saying something, I'm just going like, oh, you're it just doesn't fit.
Great.
It
Okay.
doesn't fit. Let the TNG crew talk it out, and you go sit in a corner somewhere. Look, as far as new characters go, I like Jack better than her. I like
I agree
Shaw
with that.
better than her. I like Jordy's daughter better. I like everybody better than
I
her.
like the janitor and the Titans lower decks cleaning up better than her. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that will basically kind of wrap up our episode there. Thanks for your patience. But quickly before we go, we do like to add the preview of next week's episode into it. Do you recall the name of the episode, Gray?
Uh, no.
Are You Lonesome Tonight? And
Okay. It sounds like a song.
what do we see in that minute and a half, really briefly, in the preview?
I was trying to figure out what's going on, but of course they're not going to want you to reveal everything. But
Yeah.
what we did see is the big bad's head changeling, whatever you want to call him. She does the hand thing again, cuts her hand off, and the big head pops up and starts telling her, Founders Day, Foundation, whatever day is coming up, Frontier Day, whatever it is,
Mm.
is coming up, really quick. You need to get the boy, meaning Jack again. You need to do whatever you can. And he starts doing like a little heebie jeebie on her, and she looks like she's half melting or something.
Yeah, he's like controlling her
Or,
on a molecular kind of
right.
level.
So he's definitely got some interesting control over some of them. And, he was commenting about how the rest of them are having to keep their, or she was even commenting how the rest of them have to keep shape as fedlings so they don't get found out and all this stuff. So basically, it's just they're all out to find Jack. They got to find Jack, and they got to blow up whatever they're going to blow up at Frontier Day. So things are coming to a head. I think
We
is it 10 episodes this season? I
Yeah, yeah,
forgot.
yeah. So we got another
Yeah. Okay.
four, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, so we
Yeah.
think this big bad is. My theories are this big bad is possibly some kind of changeling, like maybe the equivalent of the head of the changelings, like we had. I can't remember what did we call the changeling in the DS9, the bad.
Oh yeah, I forgot. It was
Forgotten
the female
the
changeling,
female.
but
Yeah, yeah.
she was the
So
head of the yeah.
he could be the equivalent of her now, like the head of the rebel unit, or he could be
Mm.
some kind of like Kalos of the Klingons, but of changeling form, like a legendary, one of the first type changelings there that has this control over its fellow people. It was fascinating, and Vadik is not best pleased. So at one point earlier on in the
Yeah.
episode, Gray actually she says. Remember when she turns herself, she morphs into Vadik from the officer, and she turns around and
Yeah.
she goes, "Hi."
Yeah, she's laughing. Hi, I'm here.
I
Do
love
this.
her acting in this.
I just killed some people that were part of
Aye.
my crew, but hey, I don't.
I love Amanda's Plummer performance. I knew it would be good. She's playing a deranged bad guy, and she's playing it so well. The humor's brilliant.
I'm
Uh,
trying to think of now. There hasn't been a changeling, at least so far in this season 3, that is actually changed into a Klingon. So if it did change into a Klingon, that would be a Klingling. I, I had to do it.
on
Sorry.
that bombshell, we're going to end there on Gray's bad one-liner. You're not a warfarer, Riker. Give you that.
Morphling? Klingling.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. We'll be back, of course, next week with a review in episode 7. But until then, of course, like, subscribe
Live long and
below,
prosper.
and do your thing, Gray. See you later,
Live long and
guys.
prosper in all this.
Take care. Bye.